Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that screening of Support the Girls as much as I did. My name is Azia Celestino. I'm a journalist and paid-up SAG-AFTRA member. Woo! I am so excited to introduce our guest this evening. She started her career appearing in commercials and successfully made the leap to TV and movies. She scored roles in The Best Man and Love and Basketball, but became famous for her role as Brenda in the Scary Movie series of horror parody films. Over the years, she has continued to take on memorable roles that make audiences laugh and cry. She has also used her platform to become an advocate, speaking for underrepresented voices and a number of worthy causes. Please welcome Regina Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And I heard, yes, of course. I heard for Support the Girls, one of the worthy causes that you helped was the homeless community. Can you talk a little bit about that, the world premiere of Support the Girls at South by?
Oh, yeah, South by was great. We shot in Austin, and I really love Austin, and it was great. It's a wonderful city. And what'd you ask me? Look, and y'all, let me tell you something. I'm not high. I'm a little bit jet lagged, but I'm trying to think. Did I do something with the homeless? Did I?
So, she does so many amazing things. It's hard to remember everything. There were some bras involved to help homeless women.
Yes. So,
Support
you know
the girls.
What? We aligned with a group, Support the Girls. Support the Girls is a double entendre for these girls. Actually, which I didn't know originally.
I didn't realize until the bra picture at the premiere.
And it was that, and they and so that we were giving, bras to, the home. Yes, I do remember. And that was great.
We'll dive right into the movie. What was it about this role that made you want to take on Lisa?
Honestly, I just love the script. I love the humanity in this world. I think it's a world I never really thought about it. I probably subconsciously was like, oh, I'm not going there. But once I went to a lot of the Twin Peaks and where we did research in Hooters, I found that there were just amazing people there. And so I just loved the way that Andrew told the story about the support that these girls have with the backdrop of it being, in a sort of restaurant where you wouldn't necessarily think of the support system and the sisterhood, but it was really present, and I loved the way, the story unfolded. I kept waiting for some giant, sinister character flaw, and it kind of never happened. Lisa was just, she was just good.
I mean, I think the biggest flawed moment is when she's like, put down that bag of money I just raised for you.
Yeah, and I think that just came out of hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of
finally standing up for herself.
Yeah, and that effort that you put, the disappointment that happens. But there it is. There's the portion where you do, but there is the truth of life where you have to allow. It is not your. It's not your. Someone else's life isn't yours to choose or to live. So it's I think that was kind of what she had to realize too in the story.
And we're in a room full of actors and creatives in the industry, so I have to ask.
And Hooters waitresses.
Yeah. So what is the very serious acting research in a Hooters? What does that look like? What is that process?
I just went there and met a lot of the customers and talked to a lot of the girls and a lot of the families that went, and they were great. And I was a regular myself by the end. It was very weird. They had good food, I love boxing. I was like, well, I'm gonna come here and watch the match. And then I spoke to a lot of the people who go there, often, and you kind of do get to see that it is an environment that's friendly and, kind of loose, and you know, obviously things can happen if people drink too much, but it was a lot it was a lot more familial than I had anticipated. And the girls were really nice girls.
And you were working with, I love this nickname, mumblecore legend Andrew Bocek. So what was it like to work with him on this project and the rest of the crew?
They were great. I mean, you know, I think Andrew had such a clear vision. I think because he wrote it and he had been writing it and studying it and researching it for years, he was really conscious to make sure that these people weren't caricatures, that we did not show a story that looked like we were trying to judge or do anything. He was so conscious of his shots. And he just was great to work with. I mean, I enjoyed him so much, and I enjoyed what he was trying to create and, you know, his vision. And I think he was, and he's an Austin native. So that made it fun, you know, and we shot literally right across the parking lot from a Twin Peaks. So, I mean, I had never had fried pickles.
Really?
No, but they are really good.
Mm-hmm.
They
Anything
are really
fried,
good.
pretty much.
And they had some really good chicken quesadillas and sweet potato fries and some, you know, fish tacos. They had a lot of food. And it was a really good it was a good time. It was a good time with our crew and our cast, the girls in our cast, the young girls in our cast, the you know, the workers and the waitresses, and they everybody was just, we all showed up to, you know, to be those characters and play that part. You know what I mean? We did.
And this isn't your first independent film experience. In 2015, you were in People, Places, Things, Jim Strauss.
Yeah, I love Jim.
What is the difference between working on an independent film like this one and working on something more commercial as an actor?
Well, you know, I think you're not going to have the same amount of time. You know, schedules are condensed, and so I think not that you're not prepared, but you know, there's a lot of rehearsal so that when you are shooting, you can really go. I think a lot of times the directors have their shots so clear, and you know, you kind of, once you get it, you move on, and so it's just, you know, it's a matter of efficiency. Craft services isn't as good.
But at least you had like the Twin Peaks.
That's
food.
why we were at Twin Peaks every day. Soon I was just gonna put on an apron and go to work, but it was great. I mean, you know, the thing is, there's just a lot of love on both kinds of sets, indies or, you know, I mean, listen, sometimes our studio films are the budget of some people's indies, you know what I mean? Especially when we started doing like movies like Best Man, you know, black films before they were getting a giant budget. So, and it was a lot of money to me. But, you know, these kind are, and like People, Places, Things, we were definitely on a small budget.
So how do you prepare for a role like Lisa? And is your process pre-production kind of the same across the board for every role, or does it vary?
It varies. I always start with hair. Yeah, I always think, how would a character wear her hair?
I love that.
Yeah, it's strange, and I was convinced that Lisa's hair would be dated. So I needed to find a hair. I mean, they did it too, you know?
Do you find that you get a lot of support when it comes to your input for the character and how the character looks?
Yeah, totally. I feel like the directors and usually like, you know, hair and makeup, they're so supportive, and they're like, okay, let's see, you know, sending pictures and I wanted Lisa's makeup to look like she did it. So the makeup artist would put it on. Look, see. She would put it on with her hand instead of a brush. So I was like, you know, I think this is a woman that gets up and wants to look good, maybe doesn't have the time. So I wanted her to look like there was effort, but you know, it was always not. It was off. You know, it was off. But I wanted
I think it was, you know, it's
light
blue eyeshadow is so hard to pull off.
I wanted the effort. It is, but I think, and there was a day when it looked good. Sometimes you have to leave things behind, and I don't think she did, you know, and it was okay, you know what I mean? But the thing is that she tried, you know, there's something beautiful in effort.
And
she didn't comment. She was like this.
I told Regina before this that makeup traumatized me because it reminded me of how I did my makeup when I first started learning how to put on eyeshadow. So, yeah, we won't comment. No. It was a creative decision.
Yeah.
But Lisa is kind of this mother figure for all of these young girls at the restaurant, Double Whammies. What was the most challenging thing for you when it came to playing her, and what sort of came to you second nature?
I think being nurturing is second nature. I think, just being, I think women deal with so much that they tend to mask their own feelings in situations and how they feel, and that becomes a day-to-day way of being. And so I think when I was playing Lisa, there were a lot of things I felt, but always, one of the things that Andrew was conscious of is to not make the film melodramatic. So, it was to constantly make sure that everything was covered, even when she was feeling like she had wanted to break down, never really having that let go. And there were a couple times in the movie where it happened, and we would just go back and cover it. Like for me, it was really sad doing the interview during the interview at Man Cave. It was a really sad scene for me because it's kind of like life when you make such a lateral move, but it's oh my God, who laughed? But but it's such a lateral move, but it's a move. And so there was something in it that was really sad during the interview. And then he thought he was right to not play the emotion. And then when I actually watched it, because Lisa really did her makeup that day, I was like, I think we should really and do the curls, because I wanted to look like she really wanted to do an interview. That you felt that she got up with an intention, that day. Even though it was just across the highway and it was just Man Cave, it was an intention. It was an intention to move forward.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most powerful scenes in the movie is kind of seeing her fight those breaking points, particularly when she comes home and finds out Cameron has left. Just because I think Support the Girls in general is almost about this idea that we have in American culture, especially about value and our identity when it comes to our jobs, and also the impact that our jobs have on our personal lives and also our relationships with ourselves. So for you as an actor, have you ever felt like a role took on more of a life than just a job, for better or worse?
I don't know. I mean, you always, I think after a part, there's some part of it that you have to shake off that you don't take home. I mean, I have a little process that I guess I do, but I think the bigger thing is that, it just doesn't take over your life. There's a tendency you get so caught up in the role that, you have to be conscious of the people around you. And, sometimes you can think and think and think and think and think, because maybe you're trying to find your way into it. You know what I mean? Who knows what your preparation is, but it definitely does. There is a part of it that does become really dominant. You know what I mean? If you're not careful to balance it, so it just depends. You know what I mean? Some roles are, you know what I mean? Like in Girls Trip, we just were like weekends. We were partying. We were like, we not shooting. Y'all need to go home. But there's a part of you that kind of you're in it, and so you're just like. There's a version of you. Maybe that's why I was at Twin Peaks on weekends. You know what I mean? Because there's a part of you that just kind of, you start to live it.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of Girls Trip, and even if you go as far back as The Best Man, I feel like the kind of Regina Hall signature is a really unique blend of both comedy and drama. So as you look back on the years of your career, is that something that you decided intentionally?
I was a young thing, y'all.
You still look amazing and young.
No,
Just
thank
stop.
you. But in that first Best Man, I was cherubic. And I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? I looked and I was like, Jesus, it's happening before the world's eyes, not even just mine. Jesus, I have to take a second.
That scene.
Which one?
The stripper scene.
You wouldn't put me in that again. They'd be like, no, cover Candy up. Put her in the wrapper. Put Candy in a wrapper. It was great. It's all, I mean, What was the question? I know y'all are wondering. I just got on a tangent of the time that passed. What?
Yeah, no problem. The unique blend of comedy and drama. That's
Oh,
kind of like your
yes.
signature.
Yes.
And I love that about your career because even when you are doing something dramatic, there are so many memorable scenes in the movie where you're like, there's a line or a quote or something hilarious that happens with your character. So it's never too heavy, but it's heavy at the right moment. You get the
Thank you.
message. Yeah, of course. Is that something that you set out to do with intention when you selected jobs, or is that something that...
Probably just more like my personality, I think. And then maybe I tend to find some kind of, lightness in life. I think probably we all do. I mean, it would be hard to survive without it. When you really think of like a day-to-day, it would be maddening when you think of all the spots in life that, are challenging or difficult or emotional or painful. So I kind of tend to think that mirrors like more of my reality.
Now I'm thinking about the candy stripper scene, so I have to ask you, if you were speaking to yourself now that you have this experience and you've gone through these different sets, what would you say about that? Did you feel comfortable as a young woman doing that scene? And would you still do that today?
Yeah. I felt I would have been like, take off more.
Sizzle.
It's going. I felt happy to be working. I tried not to ever judge a character. You know what I mean? I think whatever we are in life, everybody's doing the best they can. So if there's a character that I play, even if I were a serial killer, I always think there's a slice of human. I know she's like, but I like to think that there's a slice of humanity in all of us. You know what I mean? And maybe, there's sides that take over. But I'd like to think that there's something beautiful, something, even if it's just a shred, something.
I mean, you have to when you're taking on that role under your wing. So we're getting in the time machine. Mm-hmm. We're going back to the days when you decided you were not going to pursue journalism. And even though you got your master's from NYU, you were going to shift gears to acting. What was the inspiration for that change?
It wasn't necessarily an inspiration. I was in grad school my first semester, and my father he had a stroke suddenly, and he passed away. And so I think when you're young, you don't quite understand, or you don't think about death. So it was a sobering moment. It was a sobering time in my life, and life just happened, and it redirected a lot.
Death kind of makes you reassess your path. And
yeah, my father was a great dad. Let me just say this. He was a great dad, a wonderful dad. He showed up. I've had somebody ask me in an interview, how was it growing up without a dad? Because I know, I talk about my mom so much because he died when I was 23. So it's been a long time without him. And then, I'm black, he's black, so they just assumed he wasn't around. So I was like, let me shout out the... amazing.
That is so wrong.
Black men and black fathers who are great dads. I mean, but I understood because I had never talked. I used to not talk about him because it was emotional for me, but I'm okay now. But he remains a huge part of my life. So when he departed, it was a big change in my life, like emotionally and financially. And so they had to shift. So I think I had to get more serious about like my future in life. And
we mentioned you started off doing commercials. I actually found a McDonald's commercial on YouTube. I believe your one line was, and McDonald's Fries.
That was my line.
Do you remember what it was like to book those first roles?
So excited. My mother, you would have thought I had booked like the lead in a Leonardo DiCaprio movie. She was like, I knew it. I was like, it's taken 3 years to get 3 lines. It was great. I remember I was like, I was like, it was so exciting. It's so great. Even now.
And you said it so well, that delivery.
I did.
And McDonald's fries.
Some McDonald's fries. And I had these curls. I remember I didn't like my hair, but I was like, and I would walk down the street. I thought everyone was going to recognize me, so I was like this. Like, not one person, not a soul.
You're like,
no one looked my way. I was like,
I can't go to McDonald's. You're like, I can't go to McDonald's. I'll get bombarded.
Not sure, but like, no. I mean, not even like a. Was that like nothing? Like not a. Did you? Nothing. Zero. I mean, that was what was amazing. Just that no one saw and no one cared.
Or maybe they didn't mention it. They weren't sure. Yeah, it's New York. New York is different.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But when I went to D.C., I mean, nothing.
In LA.
Nothing changed. It's okay. It was a ball.
In LA, you couldn't get coffee. There would be paparazzi like, McDonald's Fries lady. So you said it took 3 years. I'd read interviews that you had moved out to LA from New York for pilot season, and it kind of seemed like the jobs came rolling in from there, but now we know it took a while. And working actors, like, life is so challenging when you're trying to juggle a day job and also book roles. So what was that experience like for you?
Most people in here actors? Is everyone an actor? Yeah, well, it certainly wasn't overnight for me. It was my family, like, how long are you gonna keep doing this? 'Cause I was like, I got in arguments. I had a cousin that wouldn't tip. I was like, you have to tip. We make money off tips. If you can't tip, don't go out to eat. Because we went to a restaurant and the waitress was an actress and she didn't tip. Anyway, it was a long story. But the point being, yes, and it's, sometimes you're like, should I, But my mother always kept some hope alive. She'd be like, my mother rejoiced at a callback. You got a callback, baby? She would tell her friends, let me call you back. Mom. Gina got a callback.
That's a good mom, though.
It was a
because
great mom.
That keeps you going. You need the support, but you also
great.
need, that resistance.
Totally.
And you
she
need
was
people
right
to
there.
doubt you. You need the no's. Was there a specific time when you dealt with rejection and you were just like, I don't know.
I just got used to the no's. They didn't even count anymore. I auditioned for Best Man, and I didn't. At that point, I didn't get scripts. I only got portions, so I didn't know who was in the movie, what was. I just saw the sides, and I went, and I had to audition like several times. So the first time, and then the last time was the dance, and I can't dance, and so I went to the callback, and they were just. They were in the. There was like 6 of us. They were breaking it down. I was like, I had drank a bottle of Azia, and I was still sober. When you're like, your adrenaline is high, so I was still sober. I was like, damn, I'm still sober. And they were like, did you work on your routine? And I didn't have a routine. I had a girl in my acting class, and who used to strip, and I was like, what do I do? She was like, just turn the chair around, girl, and just slap your ass. That's all. And I was like, you think that's all I need? She said, that's all you need. So that's all I had prepared. So they're coming out of the room one by one, like they're in the, and it's like, when they don't care about your process, they just put you in one big room with everybody. So we're in one room, and, one is like, I forgot my lift. It was just too much. So I go in, and there's like one chair. I turn the chair around. It's like a producer. This was Sam Kidd at the time, and Malcolm Lee. I turned the chair around, and I was like, well, I guess this is, I just start going to the beat of the music. And then I remember Sam Kidd said, stop the music, Regina, stop. And he just said, can you do anything else? And I said, yes, I can. And I picked up my jacket, and I was like, thank you. And I left. And the reason I left was because I was like, well, I don't get any jobs, so my agent's not gonna know. It'll just be another job I didn't get. But they'll be happy because I got close, right? So close now is like good. So I was like, cool, I'm just gonna go. And that was it. And then the next day, my agent called and said, Regina, what happened at the audition? And I was like, how did she find out? How did she find out? And they said you. So they hired a professional dancer, and they said, she's going to work with you. And if she says you can do it, then you have the part.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
What a great story.
So you never know.
But I think maybe it was, sometimes I think it's like the jobs you care too much about and you're too invested in. They can almost smell the desperation. And the fact that you walked away, maybe they're like, that was something Candy would do.
I think they were just like, bring her back in here again. That was funny. See if she can do something else. It was really bad. I mean, I wanted the job. I just like at that point I was like, I just hadn't gotten plenty of jobs. So it wasn't stinging anymore. It was just like I was numb. I was numb.
Did you love auditions?
I remember my acting coaches would tell us that that you're not actors, you are professional auditioners. So, no, I didn't like it. I mean, but I was happy to get an audition. I think I just started focusing on, I'd feel great if I felt like I gave a great audition. You know, that would be my version of success. Like, I went and I did what I went to do. I didn't get nervous. I did it. I took my time. So it was more about what I gave in the audition.
I want to take a quick question from the audience. We had just mentioned that Regina got her master's degree for journalism, and Sean has a question for Miss Hall. Very polite. I read that you studied journalism in college. If you were a journalist today, what story would you cover?
There's so many stories I would cover.
All the stories.
Jesus. You know, there's so many things going on politically, you know, and I would definitely cover that. And then I would probably cover, a lot of great stories. You know what I mean? I think I'd cover some happy stories, like stories of people like doing great things in the community. I'd probably want to spotlight a lot of goodness, I think.
The feel-good stories.
Strippers and hoes.
We only have a couple minutes left. If she says stripper again, 2 minutes.
Exotic dancer.
Let's see. We don't have much time, so I want to make it a good one. I like this one because we're in a room full of actors. So you were recently honored at the Step Up Inspiration Awards, and you said, we're in a time of social media, so I encourage our beautiful young girls to pursue excellence, not likes. And I think that's amazing advice, not just for young people, young girls today, but also in our industry that's being so impacted by new technology and social media. What's your advice for actors?
You know, for actors, I always say pursue your passion and pursue your craft. You know, a lot of times we think we have to do, and it has changed a lot. I mean, I'm terrible on social media, and I understand the good parts. So, like, you know, see how it can be a vehicle for you. You know what I mean? Like, use it, don't allow it to use you. And so whatever that means, whatever, you know, information you can get, if it helps. But, you know, our job is to always bring, you know, life to things. You know what I mean? To create things that people want to see visually, whatever medium that is. And so it's not really about the fanfare. It's just kind of about the truth. So whatever that is for you, whatever that is for all of you, and it'll be different for every individual, but it's important to always like come back to that and remember that.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Regina
Thank you
Hall.
guys for staying.